Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's now time to take a look at the news stories making the headlines across the globe. I started off in Australia, where one of the countries to first witness the new year. More than 1 million people descended onto a hazy Sydney harbour and surrounding areas to ring in the new year despite the ongoing wildfire crisis ravaging New South Wales, Australia's most populous state. The planned 9 p.m. fireworks over the city's iconic landmarks were delayed by 15 minutes due to strong winds, but it didn't deter revelers from celebrating in a desperately needed tonic for the state. New South Wales had cupped the brunt of the wildfire damage, which had razed more than 1,000 homes nationwide and killed 12 people in the past few months. Some communities have cancelled New Year's fireworks celebration, prevent new wildfires. And let's tell you that New Zealand's major cities greeted the new year with traditional fireworks on Wednesday morning. In Auckland, half of a ton of fireworks burst from the city tower above the city centre as large crowds celebrated below. The country is one of the first nations in the world to welcome 2020 and the new decade. And so speaking about the celebrations, huge crowds of North Koreans gathered in the capital to count down to midnight to bring in the new year with a firework display. Footage from the celebrations was broadcast by the state media from Pyeongchang.
여러분, 새해가 시작됩니다. 뜻깊은 2020년의 시작을 알리는 축포가 터져오릅니다. 새해를 축하합니다.
새해를 축하합니다.
Also in Shanghai, over 2,000 drones took off in the sky on Tuesday night to create a spectacular show as the city marked the countdown to the new year. The drones were arranged in a neat array near the bank of Hupo River. They gradually lit up and rose, swooping, converging, and dispersing and forming various shapes and three-dimensional patterns in the night sky. Meanwhile, thousands of South Koreans feel the cold downtown streets in Seoul for traditional bell tolling ceremony near the city hall to send off an exhausting 2019 highlighted by political scandals, decaying job markets, and crumbling diplomacy with North Korea. Dignitaries picked to ring the old Bosingak bell at midnight, including the South Korean Major League Baseball pitcher Hyun Jin Ryu and Peng So, a giant penguin character with a gruff voice and a blunt personality about that emerged as one of the country's biggest TV stars in 2019. The annual tolling of the Peace Bell at the Imjigak Park near the border with North Korea was cancelled due to quarantine measures following an outbreak of African swine fever. And as Europe, where Parisians witnessed a stunning light show and fireworks display at the Arc de Triomphe as the French capital held its New Year's Eve celebrations. Celebrations were taking place across the globe on Tuesday night into Wednesday to mark the beginning of a new decade.
Elle sort de son lit, tellement sûre d'elle, la seule.
Now, tens of thousands of revelers gathered at the Berlin's Brandenburg Gate for the biggest New Year Eve celebration in Germany. The crowd cheered as rockets exploded for more than 8 minutes in the center of the German capital. New Year's Eve celebration in Lebanon were different this year from their revolutionary tone amid ongoing nationwide demonstrations. Thousands of protesters and citizens gathered at the Mataya Square in Beirut to celebrate the beginning of the 2020 on the evening of the 76th day of the protest movement. A large stage was set with a banner above reading New Year's Revolution while the crowd sang revolutionary anthems.
وتاني شيء علقوا ايدينا لفوق بس كرمال الصورة. بعرف في عالم بينزل الدم على اوكي اتس فاين.
And while the war celebrated the entry into the decade, Nigeria was not definitely left out. It was pomp and circumstance in the city of Lagos, southwest of Nigeria. Lagos residents defied the Hamilton Code and put behind all challenges to welcome the new year with fireworks and exhilarating songs. They expressed their expectation going into the new year, and then it was countdown. And we'll be going on a quick break here on the morning show. When we return, we'll still be talking more. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. And we'll be looking at celebrations around the world. Now let's visit over into Lagos State here in Nigeria, which also witnessed pomp and pageantry in terms of ushering into the new year.
Out this night, and as you also know, it's 5 centers across Lagos State. We have Epe, Ikorodu, Agege. This is Lagos Island, and you can see lots of Lagosians behind me. They are so excited to be ushered into 2020, and I can tell you categorically that Governor Sanwo-Olu was actually here. He was the Lagos State governor. He was the one who ushered us into 2020. He counted down alongside his cabinet. And here with me, I have a couple of friends who are willing to speak to us. They are so excited to see the year 2020. Jane, if you can hear me, I have my friend here. Can you talk to the camera?
Hi, Happy New Year.
How are you?
I'm beautiful.
How excited are you seeing the year 2020?
Hey, I'm more than excited seeing 2020.
Thank you so much, man. No. What assurance or what are you having for the year 2020?
I can hear you.
What hope are you having for the year 2020?
A whole lot. I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping for more opportunities, open doors, and more blessings.
How are you this morning?
Lovely, I'm so excited to get into the new year. So much happiness in me right now. Yeah.
You're not forced to come here this morning. You came on your own volition.
Yes.
And I know that it's going to be an exciting 2020 for you, right?
It's going to be an exciting 2020 for me, yes.
Thank you so much. Pleasure having you around. I'm having AY here, and AY is as excited as the rest of the Lagosians tonight. AY, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Talk to us. How do you feel this morning?
Wow, I feel very great.
How do you feel entering 2020?
Wow, it's going to be a great year. For everybody of us, it's going to be a very great year.
What are you going to tell other Nigerians? What are you going to tell Nigerians who probably are not very happy right now or are in one situation or the other?
Well, I just want to say that wherever they are,
There's always keep God. There's always have God in mind that whatever they do, they always shall be happy.
Thank you very much. Pleasure having you around. Come on. We are so excited to talk to us this morning. We are so excited to see you here 2020.
Wow. So much happiness 2020. I'm so grateful to God for making.
It is not easy for people. A lot of persons have gone before this 2020. For me that have seen this 2020 is a plus for me. And I believe that it is a work of God for me to see this day. A lot that even are more handsome than me could not make it. But I make it today, so I'm more than excited.
Without being told, you can see everybody is happy. Look at the crowd. Everybody has to come here. Thank God for life. And if anybody is facing any challenges, yours is just to keep hope and believe that Almighty God will take every situation. Take care of that.
I'm quite excited. I'm excited.
Tell us more.
I think it's going to be a good year. My heart goes out to the people who aren't having the best year at the moment, who, you get me, are going through struggles, trials, you get me. I would like them to know that the Lord is always with them.
Okay.
And He helps us through all of our struggles. He has helped me. So this previous year was a terrible one for me, but I came out of what I was going through.
Wow. And yes, I must say,
across the world, and it's obvious that from all parts of the world, people are looking at the year 2020 with a lot of expectations, with a lot of excitement. It's a leap year, by the way, starting on a Wednesday under the Gregorian calendar. Is the 20th year in the third millennium, the 20th year in the 21st century, and the first year in the 2020s decade. But why people are excited and they have expectations and they have hopes, there are also anxieties about some of the major events that may occur in the course of the year, or that may be carried over from 2019 into 2020. You know that this year is the year of the Summer Olympics, by the way.
Yes.
That's on the positive side. That will generate a lot of excitement in Tokyo, Japan, from July 24 to August 9. It's also the year of the Brexit outcome. By January 31 in the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom will be pulling out of the European Union. And then we'll see how they work out the trade deal between that point and December, which is tentatively the expected deadline at this moment. And then you have in November, on November 3, the United States will be going for elections. So all of this could affect a lot of things. But on the negative side, you still have the tension between China and the United States, which could have implications for economic growth in the year 2020. You have, the crisis in the Middle East. Only yesterday there were demonstrators in front of the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. So there's tension in the Middle East, and that again, can affect global prosperity. Under the horoscope, the Chinese horoscope, 2020 is considered the year of the rat, and the rat is said to be a very positive sign. Under yin and yang, under yang, it means the beginning of a new day.
Yeah.
And, the excitement, of course, is that we all hope that 2020 will truly be the beginning of a new day, the turning around of fortunes as human beings. That's our expectation. And then, of course, the year of the right is also about prosperity, and growth. And we hope that, the world will be more prosperous in 2020 in line with the, analysis under the Chinese horoscope. But today is also a day for New Year resolutions. I don't know whether you have a New Year resolution yet.
Okay.
I'm not putting you on the spot.
No, I think I do. I think I have
traditional
one.
Thing.
I think I have one, and I think I will be sticking with it. I'm beginning by trading. As a matter of fact, I want to run the Lagos Marathon sometime next month.
You want to run the Lagos Marathon?
Yes, sometime next month. So,
really?
Yes, I will be doing that. Don't worry.
I'm looking at you.
Doctor didn't even start over.
I don't want to make any comment.
Don't start
Then you can see the way I was
don't
looking
start
at you.
over this morning. You asked for it, and I'm giving it to you. Don't question it. When that time comes, then there'll be the big reveal.
Anyway,
I don't know if you do have.
My response is in my look.
Okay.
You know, the way I
Okay,
looked
don't
at
worry.
you.
Doctor, I'll be proving you very, very wrong. I don't know if you do have New Year resolutions.
Well, I mean, just work harder.
Okay.
Make more friends. You know, be more intentional. Yeah. You see.
Lovely.
Anyway, you have any other story?
Let's actually tell you that as part of the New Year assurances for all Nigerians, President Muhammadu Buhari, in his letter to the country, reiterated that he will be standing down in 2023. President Muhammadu Buhari said he will leave office at the expiration of his 8 years and would contest in any future elections. He also itemized what his regime had done since 2015 and would do in the years ahead. He promised to improve power supply, build roads and houses for Nigerians, develop agriculture, diversify the economy, create jobs, combat terrorism, and promote democratic principles.
Well, I mean, what I like about the president's speech is that he used the opportunity of the New Year message to inspire Nigerians. He talks about hope, he talks about optimism, he talks about 2020 marking the beginning of a decade of possibilities. And I think that it's a good thing for the president, you know, of Nigeria to talk about hope. You refer to his point about not running in 2023.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he had to make that point because there have been speculations, there have been allegations, even by Femi Falana or SAN, that there is a plan to ensure that the president does a third term in office. And the president has repeatedly said that, look, that is not true. His aides have also said that that is not true, that he's committed to upholding the Constitution and respecting his oath of office. And I think it's important that he has reassured us again. And any person who tries to, you know, do any third-term politics, you know, they've been given this strong signal and a message from the president that they are on their own and they do not represent his interests. What we can add is that if any such persons come up, you know, it shouldn't just be a question of expressing their opinion. It should be seen as an anti-constitutional and an illegal attempt, and such persons should be sanctioned. The third point that the president made, which also came out very well, is that he used the opportunity to reaffirm, you know, the basis for his mandate. The economy, you know, ensuring that the economy does better, the war against corruption, and then, you know, the security, national security. And he dwelt extensively on the security side of it when he referred to, you know, providing modern weaponry and training and opportunities for the armed forces to be able to still continue to degrade or decimate, you know, the threats that we have in parts of the country, threats of kidnapping, banditry, armed robbery, and the insurgency in the northeastern corridor of Nigeria. And then, of course, he talked about infrastructure, you know, what the federal government intends to do with the Escravos pipeline, even housing. The federal government wants to deliver, you know, thousands of units of housing. Roads, 27 roads or thereabouts are being earmarked for immediate delivery by the end of this year. And I think that all things considered, it's a very optimistic message to Nigerians. But we'll see the truth of it in the course of the year in terms of government performance.
Yes, you just hit it straight on, because at the end of the day, governance is not just about throwing out lofty words, but also matching them with equal action. And like you said, you mentioned electricity. For me, that's a very, very big cardinal, because a lot is actually riding on the fact that electricity is not constant in Nigeria. And the moment it is, we believe that the industrialization that we are supposed to enter into, that particular phase, will be guaranteed.
Yeah, he mentioned the Mambila Hydro Project. He mentioned the second Niger Bridge, infrastructure generally. But the test of the pudding is in the eating, isn't it?
So they say.
Yes.
So they say. Now, let's actually tell you that, moving on to some sports stories, the year of Tiger Woods, looking at the year and the comebacks, basically. Okay, let's go on a quick break.
And we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll continue with the program. You're still watching The Morning Show here on the Arise News channel. We'll be back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Well, Aaron, you've been looking at the headlines, and I guess by now we should be going to the world of sports.
Yes, sports, like you mentioned, 2020 promises to be massive in terms of sports because the biggest sporting event in the world will be taking place, talking about the Summer Olympics. And let's see what Tokyo has to offer. This will be the second time Tokyo will be hosting the Summer Olympics after hosting it in the 60s. We are hoping, and Nigeria actually won her first medal in Tokyo. So going back to Tokyo in Japan, we are hoping that Nigeria will be able to rake in medals and not just go there to participate or a show of shame.
Nigeria should be prepared. And, you know, fortunately, the experience we've had in recent times is that we tend to win on the basis of the dexterity, self-belief, talent, competence, you know, commitment of individual athletes.
True.
Rather than a structured, you know, long-term, well-prepared, you know, approach to these international athletics competitions. And that is why we tend to even do better in the Winter Olympics than in the Summer Olympics.
And I hope, in the Paralympics
I hope that it is not the case that in our sports sector, it's only now that we are in January and you have the Olympics in July and August that Nigeria will start preparing. Because countries start preparing for the next Olympics the moment the particular one ends. So in terms of preparation, we should have been preparing, you know, for years before now, since the last Olympics. But I hope, you know, as often happens, Nigeria springs surprises and our athletes will do well.
The Minister of Youth and Sports said something that was quite worrisome. He said that Nigeria will be needing close to about 30 billion to prosecute the Olympics. And at the
30
moment,
billion.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Between January and July.
Thereabout, and Nigeria will just be availed just 3 billion to be able to do that. So there's little or no hope.
You already have an idea of how we are likely to perform that.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so now let's actually talk about 2019 and how 2019 was the year of the comeback. I like to put it that way because we saw several people. We've mentioned some of them here on the show, but just several people. Of course, the year of Tiger Woods, let's start it off from that particular man who rolled back from a physical breakdown and emotional meltdown to slip into the most famous piece of tailoring in sports, talking about the Masters green jacket. And earlier in the year, we saw Tiger Woods celebrating with his family and with his friends as he picked up a Masters
with his
after.
son.
Yes.
That's an epic photograph. Yes, but Tiger Woods, I mean, if you want to take the comebacks one by one, I think it's, what he achieved in 2019 is phenomenal. It's probably the greatest comeback of the decade.
Yeah.
As at the beginning of the year, many of his fans and friends and admirers were in fact advising him to retire.
True.
Because they thought that, you know, with all the injuries, with his back, with his, you know, leg that he had been having, there was no point just continuing to soldier on. But he believed in himself. He was determined. And that moment when he wore the green jacket again at the Augusta, you know, that was really a great moment for him, for the sport, you know, and also in terms of the humanism, you know, or in terms of his heroism, in terms of his, you know, commitment to golf. So I think congratulations to him coming back to win the green jacket 22 years after he won his very first one. It was quite a great moment.
And 11 years after he won his last one.
His last, yes.
So it's quite phenomenal. And also you're celebrating. We saw pictures of the president actually awarding him. So, like you said, comeback of the decade. And also, since we're talking about comebacks, in football, we saw a major comeback. No one would have ever thought that would actually happen. Liverpool coming back against Barcelona. Liverpool had lost the first leg at the Anfield 3-0. And Barcelona were on the verge of probably going and coasting them to a Champions League finals, only for them to be stopped by a band of merry men that is being led by the German Jurgen Klopp. And literally, Barcelona were being made to eat their words and lick their wounds and ask, where did it all go wrong?
I mean, Liverpool beating Barcelona was like a big shock, you know, to many football fans. And, you know, one of the things that Liverpool did this year was that sometimes, you know, if you watch their matches, you think, oh, if Mohamed Salah is not on the pitch, then there will be a problem. If Roberto Firmino is not on the pitch, then there will be a problem. But we've seen many matches when either the two of them or one of them was not on the pitch, and Liverpool was able to, you know, excel. So this is about leadership. And what do you think the secret is? Is it just the players or the coach?
It's the synergy, and I think it's the coach, because these players don't look too exceptional to be able to do what they're doing, but the coach has something that is working for him that maybe Jose Mourinho used to have back in the day, that maybe he had lost it, and he's been able to galvanize these people together, and they're playing
play
like,
as a team.
Yes, as a gang, and they're playing like they're possessed, literally. And Liverpool might just be winning their first Premier League title in this 2020. Let's see how it goes.
They're comfortably ahead.
Very comfortable. 13 points ahead as we speak.
Yeah.
Games will be played today, by the way, in the Premier League. But talking about comebacks, it wasn't bigger than Anthony Joshua. First of all, no one ever saw that one coming. Anthony Joshua was expected to steamroll past Andy Ruiz Jr. Then he had the shocker of his life, one of the biggest. I don't think any, aside Mike Tyson losing to Buster Douglas, in the heavyweight division, we've never seen that massive upset before.
Yes, I mean, Anthony Joshua, I mean, we've all celebrated him on this program and this station. The fact that he was able to pull himself together after that upset by Andy Ruiz and was able to re-establish himself as a man of unimpeachable talent in the boxing ring. I think is one of the, most memorable images or events in 2019. And for Nigerians particularly, with whom he shares a kinship. Yes, he's described as a British boxer, but we Nigerians, we tend to see him more as a Nigerian, as an ambassador for Nigeria. The night that he won, his hometown, Shagamu, nobody slept. There was dancing in the streets, there was jubilation. And what that means is that when you excel, when you succeed, you inspire other people. You electrify, energize, space that you don't even imagine.
Doctor, let me put you on the spot. I know you're from Ogun State, and they said his win had something to do with the visit to Shagamu at some point.
I don't know about that. I don't think it's about metaphysics.
Because they said probably if he had visited before going against Andy Ruiz Jr., the outcome would have been a little bit different. No, that's when he came to Nigeria. He came on a pilgrimage to Nigeria, and they say the rest is history.
No, it's not metaphysics. It's about technicality. It's about fitness. And the Ruiz was not looking like a champion, so he was bound to lose. I don't mind him saying that, he had been partying and he had been drinking. He didn't sound like a professional, talking like that. Andy Ruiz was bound to lose, and, Anthony Joshua won convincingly, I believe.
Yes, you say so.
So it's not about metaphysics.
All right, let's just speak about sports. Let's also tell you that the 1st of January, which is today, the winter transfer windows will be open. And when you look at the previous editions in terms of transfers and what it actually brings to the UK economy, Doctor, I begin to ask myself the question, why is it that Nigeria have not really, or Africa, we've not really taking wind of this? As it was said, 1.43 billion pounds was the record that was set in 2018 into 2019. And from the look of things might even be up that much. And that's the amount of monies that are being moved by clubs with players involved. And I look at this and I say that the amount that the Premier League adds to the GDP of the UK is one of the things that are even being talked about when that might be affected by even this Brexit. That is how important the Premier League is to the UK.
Yeah, I mean, football is a big economy. There's no doubt about that. But this transfer window is, I guess, it's not just in the United Kingdom. It's across Europe.
Yeah, across Europe.
And also in parts of Asia, I believe, And for me, when I hear some of those figures and the signings and all that, I wonder, as I pointed out the other day, whether I shouldn't start considering a career in football.
No, but no,
if it is possible.
No, it's not too late, because right now the talk is not even just if you've passed the prime, if you've passed your prime, if you become an agent and you are a licensed agent, you walk away with 25 million, 30 million.
Wow.
Pop. Just like that, for orchestrating deals.
But the transfer window closes on the 31st.
Yes.
Would there still be allowance for transfers after that deadline?
No, anything that any paperwork that is not filed in before 12 midnight on the 31st, we'd have to wait till when the summer window opens again. And we've seen things like that happen. Players were literally caught in the limbo because they were hoping to move. They didn't appear in the club, but paperwork, which is very, very key, had not crossed hands between the two clubs involved. So,
but who are the big players that we may be seeing, crossing from...
Paul Pogba, for one, Pogba cost Manchester United at a certain time about £89 million. His agent, Mino Raiola, has been speaking and saying that he might not move, but from all indication, from all intent, Manchester United will be playing Arsenal later on today. Once again, Paul Pogba has refused for some particular reason, has given an excuse that he's not fit enough to play, and he will not be playing today.
What about Zaha? Is Zaha also?
Zaha also is in the mix, but at the moment, Crystal Palace, where he plays for, the Eagles have told anyone that cares to listen that Zaha is not for sale. But at the end of the day, if they can, well, as I say, everybody has a price, and if the price is right, certainly those kind of moves will happen. We've seen major monies being spent, but as it stands right now, the monies that are being shelled out for players are becoming more and more astronomical. And because you begin to ask yourself the question, what is the true value of a player and what is the true value of his talent? I begin to see people easily moving for £100 million. £100 million is nothing in football, and I begin to wonder if we can organize ourselves here in Africa, we should be able to
see what happens, and I hope that you as a sports analyst will be monitoring it closely.
We are. I am already monitoring as I speak.
That's all on the news headlines.